Hello and welcome to ACTV 20's Health Matters. I'm Dr. Eric Parks and I have a great show for you today. I want to tell you, my guest today is an author. She's written several books, she's in several books, and she also has a technique to help diagnose, not diagnose, but help determine what may be out of balance, causing illness, causing ill health, or even dis-ease, not feeling well. And so this is really an interesting subject to me because I personally have been through this testing, and I will tell you that there are many different types of testing that you can do to get this information or to get similar information. But the interesting thing is the three different ones that I've had done tell me the same thing. So when I explain this, we're going to try to make this understandable. I'm going to tell you how great this technology is and how it is on the crest of the wave of how we will be looking at health care and determining what we do to keep ourselves healthy in the future. So I'd like to welcome Patty Cohen.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, Patty. And I know we're going to have a great topic, but we do need to jump right in because there's so much information here.
Yes, there is.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your background, where you come from, how this is of interest to you now,
Okay.
And maybe mention the books that you've written.
Okay. My early education is in early education and human development. And I ended up with a master's degree in divinity because I was so interested in how to make a family healthy. It's what I live for. And in that process, I ran across the DNA testing with 23andMe, and I said, well, I want to know more. I want to know about my family. I want to know what made them tick. I want to know why we had the issues that we had. So I had that done. It was fabulous. It was fabulous. I probably spent 2 years of checking out everything. And what I found was absolutely amazing in terms of health. And what I found very interestingly was that there were foods and herbs and things that I needed personally, and I made a list of those. And then I found that there were same for my husband and that he needed those. Funny story is that one day he came to me and he said, after 40 years of marriage, he says, I'm feeling really bad. I'm feeling really depressed. And I feel like you don't love me anymore.
Oh dear.
And I said, hold the phone. What have you done with my husband and who are you? And I had remembered what it said on his DNA test, that he needed these certain herbs. Mm-hmm. And I happened to have them because they were the same for me. And I went and got them for him. I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, tell me how you feel. Just keep that number in your mind on how bad it is. And then I gave him these little drops in a little glass of water. Mm-hmm. And he took them, and about 5 minutes later I said, hey, tell me, has it changed? It was gone. Oh. He was back to himself. Not only was he just back to himself, but he was back to earlier in our relationship when you're like happy and in love, you know? And I said, wow, this is very powerful stuff.
Miraculous, yeah.
Very powerful. And then when I learned to do biological decoding, many of the patients that were coming to me, and many of the clients that were coming to me, were suffering from a dis-ease called depression. Many of them, overwhelming amount of them, and I knew that that's what my husband was suffering from that day, because that's what was coming out of it. And rather than trash a 40-year marriage, I said, let's just fix this. So with my clients, we would do the decoding, and they still were left with some residual imbalance, because it had been going on for so long. And so I wanted to find a way to nutritionally support them, because I know that the nervous system, it needs help when it's recovering from a long-term depression or long-term disease of that matter. So when I discovered the cell well-being, the hair analysis, that in 15 minutes from using 4 or 5 strands of hair, you can get a picture of everything that's going on in your body right now that's on this chart. Not just what's going on with your neurotransmitters, your vitamins, and toxins that might be causing this.
Right. So let's examine a little bit of what this is so the audience has a clear idea of what we're talking about. Now, first of all, you mentioned hair analysis. It does use hair.
Yes, it does.
But unlike the hair analysis that's done, for example, to look for heavy metal toxicity, this uses the DNA. It's live hair cells, so they actually use the roots, which means you have to suffer a little pull when they take them out. But those live roots can have the DNA structures that the apparatus that you use evaluates to see what the vibrational changes are that may not be in harmony with your own structures. So I understood this when they explained it to me, because they used the example of an MRI. People who have had an MRI, seems like a pretty normal thing. You go into this little tube and you lay down, and half an hour later they've got an image of your spine or your knee that looks just like a knee or a spine. And what really that MRI is reading is the vibration of atoms. And it's creating a picture from how atoms of different elements vibrate. So that's kind of magical if you think about it. So this machine, the way I understood it, and you can back me up or change this if it's not right, but it is measuring the atomic vibration of the different DNA and elements in your hair to come up with some type of a picture that then describes the different areas of what we would consider to be areas of health.
Correct.
So that's a hair analysis, but of a little different animal. And so can you elaborate a little bit more on how that's done? I mean, the machine is very complicated, I understand that, but how does it do what it does?
So I know that it takes a vibrational reading of the hair ends. You need the bulb of the hair on there, and it reads that and it sends it electronically through the internet to a supercomputer in Germany that's programmed to pick up all of these different epigenetic frequencies. And then it sends it back in 12 to 15 minutes.
Wow.
I heard it can take up to 20, but I've seen it very, very quickly. It can send you back and tell you all these amazing things about your body.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. So when I had mine done, it indicated to me that there were certain exercises that I should be doing, there were certain foods that I should be avoiding and eating, certain nutrients that I should be taking, many of which I already was, which was good, but perhaps there were some that I was not taking enough of, or things that I was missing. So can you talk a little bit about where do we start on this? When a person gets their evaluation, what are we looking at first?
When you get your evaluation, you get a 34-page report that talks about everything. The first thing is the key optimization overview. So you get a picture of this, but how it relates to your body. So which areas are different sizes depending on what you need. It tells you your system support summary, which systems of your body need the most support, the food restriction summary, what you need to get out of there right away because they're interfering with your overall well-being right now.
And there's a priority that is
there is a priority.
This is really important. You need to focus on.
There is a very big priority. There's a priority, a consider, and an advisory.
Right.
And so there's 3 levels of it. If something's a priority, you need to go look into it right away, or get those foods or toxins or frequencies out of your life right away. Then it gives you a whole list of the category of the things you're going to be looking at, what the indicators are, like if you need a certain vitamin, and information on how to get that and how much to use. So then the rest of the report goes in depth into how that works. So you get actually very specifics of what your body is asking for or asking you to remove.
Okay, that's great. So can you give me maybe some hypotheticals? Because people are going to ask, well, I already eat right, and I already exercise right, I'm healthy, I don't hurt. But honestly, we all know that the disease processes can take sometimes years or decades to manifest into something horrible that we have to deal with sometimes then on an emergency basis. So these are what I would consider the more subtle indicators of how the body is functioning and where there may be deficiencies.
Exactly.
So if you could just go through a few of these, for example, environmental challenges, what sort of things are we looking at there?
So environmental challenges are the electronic fields, perhaps, that are around us, and we don't.
Cell phones. And,
yes. When I got my test, that was a very, very big problem for me. It just went off on all kinds of areas, and I realized I was sleeping in a room that had a smart meter outside of it. I had a computer, large computer monitor right next to my bed. I had a laptop in there, and I had my cell phone and my wireless home phone, and my iPad and my cell phone. And I was sleeping in this environment. And then we know that the house itself has an electrical current. And we know that our bodies have their own electrical current. All these things can interfere with how our cells duplicate or repair or how they work. And so when I got my test and it said I had a traction beam, traction current, I had all this stuff. Well, I just moved out of that room, and I didn't take anything with me but my cell phone. And in my next test, 90 days later, many of those things had been resolved. So that's something that's very important. And then
let's move around the chart.
Yeah,
and see
so
what we
resistance things might be fungus, mold, bacteria, virus. So it can tell you which things are up for you in your hair analysis at this time, and which things you need to look at. And it also gives you a remedy. You need garlic, you need ginger, whatever it is that is the natural remedy for that. It actually tells you how to address, it even tells you how to address this with certain vitamins and minerals and essential fatty acids and all these things. So the essential fatty acids are a very important thing for us to know about.
Right.
And we may not know that one of them is out of balance. For me, 9 was out of balance, and I had to figure out why and get it in there. Amino acids, of course, are very important for our nervous system.
Protein development, sure.
Yep. So it helps build and repair the body. And if you're missing 1 or 2 or 5, you need to know so that you can make your body work in an optimal way. And it kind of even helps with perhaps brain fog or, signs of aging. You might think you have a problem with signs of aging when really you just need to add some of these things. What I noticed when I got my report is I did everything that it told me to.
Sure.
Right?
Good.
And
you're a good patient.
Yeah, I am. A good student.
And a good student.
And I noticed that before I started, I was having a real hard time remembering things. I felt the brain fog. I was really scared because, I'm 62, and I thought, oh, gee, this is scary. And I got myself out of the electronic problems.
Sure.
And I started dealing with all the rest of this, and that went away within a couple days.
It's interesting, you had mentioned the amino acids. I exercise several times a week very vigorously, and I was wondering lately why I seem to be more sore the next day, because I hadn't changed my routine significantly, and the indication was that I needed more carnitine, which is one of the amino acids, especially one that's necessary for rebuilding muscle. And so that was a pretty simple one to finish or to fix, and I admitted that I had been eating less meat lately, and that probably was one of the reasons that I was deficient. But it picked up quite a few things that were very clear to me that, oh yeah, I haven't been doing that, or I've been taking more of this and I should have been doing that.
Exactly.
So it's a really good way to harmonize what you're already doing, and even if you feel good, you could feel better. That's
exactly. One of the most shocking things about my test was the vitamins.
Oh.
Because our bodies need vitamins to move, right? To live.
Right.
And it doesn't make them, usually. Most of them, it doesn't make them. You have to add them, and you get them in food. The worst one for me was vitamin C. Who would think that I would have a very difficult time with vitamin C, that I didn't have it? Well, in my research, I found out that vitamin C and sugar use the same receptor, and sugar wins.
Yeah.
And what was I eating?
Too much sugar, huh?
Sugar, or taking vitamin C that had sugar in it.
Oh, yeah. They can make vitamin C out of sugar, and that's true. Ascorbic acid, anyway, which we all say is not really vitamin C. They're allowed to call it that. But vitamin C comes from fruits primarily and vegetables, and it is a complex of different chemicals that make up the vitamin C complex. So when they're picking this up, it's not just ascorbic acid. So this was an interesting one for me too. None of them showed up for me, but in a lot of people that have this done, specific vitamins show up, and people tell me over and over again, well, I take a multiple.
Yeah.
And I take these. Well, what you're doing is you're taking vitamins that are not getting absorbed.
Right.
And you can pay for 4 or 5 of these tests a year just by knowing which ones you should be taking and which ones you don't need, and specifically which ones are actually doing you some good.
That is such a great point.
Yeah.
Because your foods need to be organic for you to be able to absorb the vitamins. Your vitamins need to be processed from a resource that you know is giving you good quality vitamins. And also, it's important to know what type of vitamins your body needs, because in the vitamin B category, there's methylcarbolamines, which are, a certain type of vitamin B12, and then there's hydroxy vitamin B12. And my DNA happened to tell me that I needed the hydroxy and stay away from the methyls because I don't process the folic acid. And everything starts to break down in my system when the folic acid is, because folic acid that you buy in multiple vitamins is synthetic. And so for myself, it just sits there. Right. And doesn't get used and causes issues.
Plus, as we get older, the body doesn't produce as much as certain cofactors that allow those vitamins to actually become effective in the body. So we can take the provitamin, which means, like you were saying, a methylcobalamin, which is B12, and FDA allows them to call it that, but we may not be able to convert that into a useful substance in our bodies. So it's great that this can help determine which of the ones that we actually need from that.
Right.
And that's really helpful. And you can save a lot of money by knowing this kind of stuff. Some people think, I'll just take my multivitamin and I get it at Lucky's or whatever, and it's cheap. But maybe it's not giving you what you need. And
one of the other issues about that type of vitamin at Lucky's, it says, has vitamin E in it. But that can be synthetic vitamin E, and it's not really doing for you, depending on your body. It might not be doing for you what you need vitamin E to do for you, because it's synthetic.
Right.
There are many synthetic vitamins, and you have to be really careful of those because they can be toxic.
They can, you're right. Same with minerals. There are certain minerals that are absorbed easily, and some that the body just says, pass it on through. And so this helps you with mineral identification of different things.
Exactly. And we know how important minerals are because they build the structure, muscles and bones, and keep us moving.
Now, you had mentioned environmental challenges with your environment, with all the electronics.
I'm sorry, I made a mistake. This is the frequency.
Right.
And the environmental is like the food additives.
Oh, I see.
Toxins in the environment. I'm sorry.
And it can pick up different toxins and imbalances that you may have.
Yes. Okay. And very, very important to know if you have them, because of things like heavy metal toxicity.
Right.
Can really wreak havoc on your body. I mean, we discovered that in our family, is that one of the people in our family came up with a huge, like 1/2 of his circle came up as heavy metal toxicity. And what we discovered is that, he had just been diagnosed with a RA.
With rheumatoid arthritis.
And you told me that can be one of the triggers. So we jumped on that day to find out which heavy metals and how to manage it.
Well, I have a personal story about that as well. My wife showed up with one of the heavy metal indicating that she needed to remove heavy metals, but it wasn't specific about which one. So we actually did a urine challenge where you collect urine, and these metabolites that your body expels will give you a percentage of what's considered normal and what's out of the range. And we found several that were really high with her. And so we went on a cleanse. She's doing it. It takes 3 to 6 months to really, before we would retest her with that. But this is one of the values of this. This isn't diagnostic of any particular disease, but it gives you indicators. And so if you find things like you were saying, with all of the electromagnetic field generating devices that are poisoning you or causing your body to not be able to repair, you can get those out of your life. But if you have the toxic metal or something like that, there are follow-up tests you can do. The omega fatty acids, this is real important. So much depression is associated with an imbalance of omega 3, 6, and 9s. That can be easily tested with a blood spot test. They just use a little finger prick thing. So this test, while not being diagnostic, can show you where you may need testing so that you don't waste money. I mean, people can waste thousands of dollars just seeing, what can we do to find out if I'm healthy? Well, yeah, there's a lot of tests. But it's nice to be able to pare that down and to say, well, here's areas where the DNA is having a challenge. So now we can recommend some tests that might help you identify where the real problems are. When you get down to the real basis of what's causing ill health, then you have a real structure in place then to fix yourself and not to have to just worry about treating symptoms like pain and tiredness, and as you were mentioning, brain fog. These are very common these days, but what do people do about it? They drink more caffeine, they eat more sugar, take drugs.
What I was doing. I didn't do the drug part, but I was doing that, and when I added these things, the brain fog went away within 24 hours maybe. Really.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Fixing things, it can be dramatic. What about the antioxidants? Now, I remember those showing up on mine, but I don't remember why or what was it saying about
So
those.
Antioxidants are nutritional factors that remove waste
Free
from
radicals,
the body.
yeah.
I'm sorry?
Free radicals,
Yeah,
those
free
kind
radicals.
of things, yeah.
And so we need
causes aging.
Yes, and we need to
want those.
keep that system working properly. We need to keep everything moving, get it out when it needs to get out. And so there's 23 major groups of antioxidants, and this report will show you what are antioxidants, what foods are antioxidants, how you get them into your body, and maybe if you want to supplement, how you might supplement with those. Because like if you can't get enough blueberries into you to take care of it, then where might you go for a supplement for that?
Right.
What supplement might work for that?
I found that very helpful because I think the emphasis here is trying to change your lifestyle to improve your health. And so they emphasize these are the foods that can help you with your fatty acids. These are the foods that can help with vitamins and minerals. And these are the foods that are antioxidants. And also, here's some supplements that will also improve that. So you have a choice. I personally did another food allergy test for myself, and I had been eating blueberries, for example, every morning in a smoothie. And was having a lot of congestion, and I thought, this isn't normal. When the food allergy test came back that I was sensitive to blueberries, well, that's a really good antioxidant, which is why I was using them, but my body was not happy with that as a food.
For you, yeah.
For me. So I had to avoid that for 4 months, and then I reintroduced it, and I was fine. But that's just a good example. If a food that you know may be causing you trouble, it doesn't mean you have to eat it anyway, but you can actually find vitamins or supplements that will give you.
Find the alternative. So one thing I need to say that's very important is that this testing is not allergy testing.
Right.
And the allergies won't show up in it, because if you know that you're allergic to shellfish and you're not eating shellfish, then your body's not going to be reacting to shellfish right now. So that's not going to show up. So if you know that you're allergic to something, please, just because it didn't show on this test, don't go take it.
Right.
It's not going to.
It's not going to show you those kind of things. But the point of that was so that if there are things that symptomatically don't resolve when you correct these things, it means that there is still some missing factors. So that's why I think this has been so helpful for patients of ours. We've been able to help them then do some testing that finds, oh, maybe we do have some food sensitivities here, or we do have an imbalance of our amino acids or nerve transmitters, those kind of things, which will show up on this as an imbalance, but it won't tell you exactly what the problem is sometimes. So you have to go one step further. But this is a good way, we call it triage, where you take a large set of symptoms and information and you try to bring it down to what's really going on here.
Let's focus.
Right.
Yeah. So this is not to say that you need to disengage yourself from your medical professional. You still need your medical professional. You really do, because you may not know why you're not using the omega-9, right?
Right.
And your healthcare professional can explain how you can make that system work again, or what might be underlying that.
Exactly. Do you have a case study, somebody, it could be you, but you don't have to mention names, how this was used to help somebody with a health problem or health challenge?
Well, it's helped me
Yes.
with, like I said, feeling foggy, forgetful, and really afraid there was something very wrong with my brain. And then I added these things, and it, it improved. So beyond that, I don't really have anyone to share with you right now, just how it's working for my family.
If the audience, if you have questions, you want to know more information, there will be information at the end of this in the credits that will help you get a hold of Patty so that you can ask, because I know she would be willing to help discuss any of your personal issues with you and how this might help you with that, because there's certainly a lot of information here, more than we can provide in a half an hour. So please feel free. Can you tell the people how to get a hold of you then? What's the best way?
Yeah, the best way is my cell phone is 530-277-4581, and my email address is cohen.patty@gmail.com. I am available every Tuesday at Highland Springs Wellness Center in Grass Valley. Every Tuesday we can make an appointment there, or we can arrange another time that works best for you. So those are some 3 ways you can get a hold of me.
Fantastic. Well, I hope people do take advantage of the information here. I think if anybody is concerned about this, there is a website, and not concerned, but more information generally about how this system works. It's called, is it cellwellbeing.com?
Cell Wellbeing, yes. And the
is that the website? Is it cellwellbeing.com?
Yes. And this
Okay.
report is called your Optimized Wellness Report, Nutritional Food Plan. And at the end of every plan, it gives us 6 steps of what you can do to, with this information, to turn around the issues that you're working with.
So I think this is a fantastic way for people to start out. If you've not been feeling well, or even if you've been diagnosed with a disease, sometimes the treatments that we get for disease, one of my patients who had psoriasis ended up doing this, and it resolved the psoriasis. But she had been taking medications for 20 years and didn't understand. And what we found was some imbalances, and it wasn't hard for her to change these things, but it took about 2 weeks, and she started to notice improvement, and within a few months it was gone. And so she now knows that was what was causing the trouble all this time. So I really hope that you will contact Patty and get more information. I found it valuable for myself and family, and also for my patients. And I really appreciate you coming on. And we will have another show, we've already talked about this, on the
Biological decoding.
Biological decoding. So write that down, because it's coming back, and that's another fascinating program that we're going to do.
Yeah.
So thank you again for tuning in to Health Matters, and welcoming my guest, Patty Cohen, talking about her fantastic cell wellness, cell well-being program. Thank you, and good night.
Thank you.